Thank you. Welcome back. This is the May 19th, 2022 meeting of the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm delighted that we're sitting here in this room and seeing one another's faces, and other than, from here up. And this is our first live meeting since the COVID pandemic, so I'm glad we're all here. I'm glad we're all healthy. This is May 19th, 2022. We're at the Littleton Town Offices at 37 Shattuck Street, room 103 in Littleton. Time is 7:00 p.m. and I'm opening the meeting. The first thing would be administrative matters, and one of the things I'd like to do is reintroduce each other to each other, because it's been a long time. Specifically, Kitty has been an alternate on the board for a couple of years now, 3 years maybe?
Plus the 1 year renewal since last year, so total of 4, but we didn't have any meetings, so.
So 4 years.
Cuts it right back off.
4 years as an alternate. And Rod Stewart and I have been here for, our lifetimes. How long have
Not
you-
as long as you, but I don't remember. When I had to fill out that form to get reappointed, I couldn't remember when I started. I just said a long time.
I can't remember either. Rod was on planning board many years ago, too.
Yeah, back in
so
the 80s.
Bring a lot of experience to the board. And Eli is relatively a new alternate, and I barely recognized him when he walked in. So Eli, share with us how long you've been on the board and his...
Really, I guess since COVID started, I've yet to attend a meeting in person, actually. So.
So nice to have you.
Thank you.
And Cheryl Gould, I'm the chair. I've been here too long, as everyone will attest. And
I'm John Sewell, and I guess 2 years as an alternate, or 2.5 years as an alternate, and maybe another 2.5 as a full-time member,
excellent.
something like
And-
that.
John Field, probably, 3 years as an alternate?
And Cheryl Cowley Hollinger is also a full-time member and vice chair. She will be here shortly. I know that she's coming. We are supposed to review minutes from October 10th, 2021. But we've lost our administrative assistant. We have a new temporary one. Hopefully that position will be filled sooner or later. And so I don't know where the minutes are, but I am sure that whatever they wrote at that meeting was probably accurate. Because now that the LCTV is televising these, the minutes get typed by someone, and they can be heard and reheard for accuracy. So I will put off the reading of the minutes from October 10th, 2021 to the next meeting. I thought we'd go around with member comments too, because we cannot open our hearings that are scheduled until the appointed time. So does anybody have any comments? Member comments, you usually do. Anything exciting happening in town?
It was a good town meeting. Did everyone go?
Yes.
It's a good town meeting. Elections are done.
Elections are done. My husband didn't win.
Some surprises.
Yes, some surprises, and congratulations to those who did win. We have a new town administrator. I understand he's pretty well received in this building. I think we have some excitement up on the third floor of the library.
New
There's a
town
new
administrator.
Anthony is.
He's not new.
Well, he's newish because he was here before and then he wasn't, and now he's back again.
I don't think that is new. Silly me.
We have excitement on the third floor of the library for the first time that I can recall in Littleton. We have a teen center.
The old library.
The old library, sorry, the third floor of the old library. And whoever's seen it, has anyone seen it? It's really awesome. The only thing is you can hear the kids like all the way down the street. They're having so much fun.
Check out Small Town.
What's that?
Check out the TV show Small Town.
Check, and what's on that?
It's a tour of upstairs.
Oh, of the teen
Nice.
center? Oh, great.
Nice.
TV show Small Town, check it out. The fourth graders were invited over on Monday, and I have a fourth grader grandson, so I was lucky enough to go over and pick him up there. And it's like full of pool tables and ping pong tables and a corral where the kids can sit on big cushions and study.
Just
and
like
do
the new
homework.
senior center.
Just like the new senior center. It's really quite exciting. I was
That's
thrilled.
nice.
Yeah. And I didn't see a single video game, which thrills me,
Yeah.
which warms my heart.
There is a whole gaming room up there.
I was afraid of that. I was afraid.
Other
of that.
news, Madam Chair, if I may, is the Land Use and Buildings Department. We are working through our reorganization, and we will be moving to the lower level of the library come July 1, as long as our electrical work is completed. And
That's
we can set up our
exciting.
cubicles and So the benefit to them primarily is to our facilities maintenance workers who have to clean up the mess of the contractors who track the mud all the way to the third floor.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Now they only have to track it to the first floor.
I saw that.
I think that's great. I thought it was a great idea when you suggested it, and I think it's a great reuse of space for right now.
Yep.
Anybody else have any comments? Anybody want to talk about the achievements of their children and grandchildren?
I learned something. So, my purse was stolen. And those of you who go on Facebook may have seen all sorts of discussion about it. But if you have a debit ATM card and it happens to have a Visa logo with it, they can use it without a password as a debit card. And whereas credit cards are regulated by the federal government, and they can't hold you responsible for charges that are made if your card is lost or stolen. That is not true with your debit card. So, this was a big thing today. So, when my purse was stolen, they used my debit card because of its Visa logo. They could go ahead and use it. And I'm not going to get back that $200. So I am applying to DCU for a new ATM debit card that does not have a Visa or MasterCard logo on it. So keep that in mind. If you carry your debit card around and it happens to have a Visa or MasterCard logo, and it happens to get lost or stolen, you better cancel it quick because you're in trouble. You can't get that money back. And I'm lucky they didn't charge more than a couple $100 on it, because it actually just pulled it straight out of the account.
I spent it all at Kenny's.
I have another administrative matter tonight, and that is, we were not geared up completely to do the proper intake of the applications before us tonight, and I'm the guilty party because I tried to do the best I could without staff, and I apologize. I did charge the applicants their fees, but we didn't collect the publication money. And part of it is that the publication cost was higher because we've lost the local Littleton Westford Independent, and so we had to publish in the Lowell Sun, which is a little more costly. So I have 2 applicants tonight. The total cost was 2 something, and it splits up equally 101.53. I had asked Mr. Scott to bring his check tonight, and Mr. Halloran, I'd asked you to bring a check, but I didn't know the amount when I talked to you on the street. So if you could fill that out for 101.53 before your hearing, then we'll be administratively all caught up.
Also, I was late because I stopped to print this out, but I can get it on my computer as well if someone needs it.
I think everybody had it, and they had access to it. It was,
Everything but the agenda.
thank you, though.
John, do you need it?
And I'm going to miss, absent Mr. Saucier tonight because he usually has the location of properties up on the screen for us. So we'll have to find somebody computer savvy enough to do that for us for our next meeting. I think I'm close enough to 7:10 to open the 7:10 meeting. So, without further ado, 7:10 PM, I'll call case number 22-957, the case of 155 King Street. Petitioner Alex Wheaton, I believe represented by contractor Peter Scott, seeks a variance or a special permit pursuant to 17310, 17327 for change, extension, or alteration to a pre-existing nonconformity to reduce the front and rear setbacks on property at 155 King. Mr. Scott, procedure is you come up and present your case with pictures. Anyone who is interested in this can come forward and see it or not.
And
The
Madam Chair,
board will ask,
you need to appoint an alternate.
oh, thank you. The board will ask questions first, and then the abutters and anyone present can ask questions second. And I need an alternate. So let's see what I got.
I'm afraid with the pictures, as far as that's involved, it should be the paper you have in front of you.
One moment, please.
I'm sorry.
Katie, I'm going to start with you and appoint you as alternate, okay? All right, we now have our alternate, so now go ahead.
What we're looking for is right now the house is 54 feet from the road, is what it's actually from the road itself, but by lot lines, it's less. It's like 35 feet. I'm looking for basically just, I think 2 or 3 feet on the front of the house, so we can put a 6-foot roof over the front of it. It's kind of a plain Jane house. We're trying to make it look a little nicer with just a front porch on the front of it with pavers underneath. That's one of it. And the other one is actually not a rear setback, it's a side lot setback. And looking to put a garage on the property also. Right behind them is the pond side. So that's what they see that, the 3-story pond side behind them or whatever. And they want to build a garage to the right-hand side of their property as they're looking at it. And the septic is in the back of the house. I want to move it away from the septic and over towards the right-hand side a little bit and leave it basically 3 feet from the side lot. That's what we're looking for the garage. It is presently, is it 8 feet on that side, or I think it's 10 feet.
It
says
says
9.3.
9.3 on your plan, Mr.
That's
Scott.
what's there now. There's a shed on the property presently.
Is that a movable shed?
Uh,
Are you
hit it
tearing the
hard
shed
enough.
down to put the garage?
Yeah, we can take that down.
So let me just remind the board that this is a pre-existing nonconformity, and we probably need either a special permit or a variance. So the first thing we need you to do is describe what is nonconforming about the lot. Does it have 150 feet of frontage on King Street?
It does not.
Okay, so frontage is nonconforming. And does it have 1 acre of land?
It does not.
Can I write on what you gave me on your agenda?
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers.
About a 1/4 acre,
And,
1/3 of an acre.
and then you said, right now, this shed that they have is 9.3 from the sideline.
91.5.
Yeah, I think
Any other nonconformities? The frontage of the front of the
It's
house is
99
at
foot
30?
frontage.
The front of the house is 30 or not? It's more than 30, okay.
It's more than
850
30
at the
presently.
left-hand
Presently
side.
30, and you're proposing 28?
850 plus
Yes,
91.
but it
Okay.
will more than likely be less than that, the agreeableness of it. The porch is gonna be like probably 5 or 6 feet with overhang, which is still gonna be less than 28 feet. It'll probably be 29 feet or from the road. I'm just asking 28 in case an overhang gets larger,
Got it, okay.
just in case, but I don't think it will be.
There already, no
Board
steps?
members,
No
questions?
steps, no, it's a ground entry on a slab. It's one of them old Army barracks houses.
No, just, the
Yeah.
steps count too, so
Oh, yeah. No, the porch,
steps, overhang, all that counts, whatever gets closest.
No steps coming off the front is what you're saying?
no, there's a patio that's gonna be underneath the porch. It's just an overhang with a hip roof on it. Again, it's trying to make it look a little prettier, and
Board members, any other questions?
Yeah, so the garage itself, we are
kind of
supposed,
looking at this as 2 separate entities, if it's okay. That if you're unhappy with one, then we're looking for the other, but we're trying to do them both in one instance.
Don't give it away yet.
So you need,
So
you
the
need to be
question-
patient with us,
Yeah.
because we're going to talk about them individually, but
Okay,
we can
sure.
consider them together,
or we consider them separately, whatever
or
you like.
separately, yes.
So the garage itself, which way is the gable running?
It's front to back.
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
talking about the new one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So again, the overhang, it's not just how close the wall is, but the overhang, how close it is to the
That's what
property
I
line.
took into effect that overhang.
Okay,
so
just
that's-
making sure you did.
Yeah.
I don't want the building inspector to tell you,
Cut it
whoops.
off.
Yeah, I was out there today, I looked at it. It's staked as it is on this drawing, right?
Pretty, yes, very,
What it looked
very.
like.
Yeah.
And yes, it has the pond side has put up a really pretty hurricane fence and 3-story building standing right next to it, so the back view, I don't see anybody's gonna have any issue with.
Okay, anyone? Cheryl?
I'm a little concerned about being only 2-foot offset to the side. Traditionally, we like to keep at least 3 feet. Is there a way to cant it slightly to keep it at least 3 feet?
Sure.
Can you do that, please?
Yes.
That 3 feet gives enough room for someone to walk around with a lawnmower, put up a ladder to attend a roof. And so we traditionally have looked for a minimum of a 3-foot offset.
Perfect. Well,
Why are you saying
Where
2
is that?
foot? Why are you saying 2-foot offset? I'm looking at 8 foot from the rear and
Oh, yes,
No,
one
it's up-
must,
from the side.
Upset, his update, because it's 9 foot there, but the lot goes this way, and he's going straight this way. So he's saying as little as 2 feet to the corner there. And it's 9 up there, but by the time you pull it back, as little as 2 feet. I want to make sure there's at least 3 feet. I don't really have a problem with this, given the location, given the fence, given the neighbor, given all the circumstances. I don't think this is going to affect people unless there's an abutter here to discuss. Oh,
Yes, you gotta wait. You have a 3-foot offset to the sideline and an 8-foot offset to the back lot line, and this is a detached garage.
Correct.
And a detached garage under the zoning bylaw is supposed to be 10 foot from every side and rear. And your problem with going in the other direction is to move it over substantially, you're going to be on top of your leach field.
Correct.
And to do this at all, are you interfering with the septic fill and the height or anything of the leach field, any breakout?
No.
And it's going to be on a slab, it's not going to be a foundation?
No, it's gonna have a 4-foot foundation, frost wall on it, and then inside of it. I
Okay,
don't
anyone else
really
have
trust
questions on the
slabs.
board?
Yeah, 28 by 32 is a pretty big garage. We just put in a 24 by 28, and it's plenty big enough. If you went to that size, you could meet those setbacks and not have an issue.
Okay, the only reason is that he has one very exotic car, and if you have 24 feet wide, correct, in yours?
Yeah.
What kind of cars do you drive?
SUV, yeah, I mean, it's,
So the smaller ones.
can handle 9-foot doors, it's fine.
Yeah.
But even 26 feet might buy you more. And, like 30 deep instead of 32 gets you 10 feet in the back.
He kind of has, I'm looking for what we're asking for. I can ask them a little bit less. I like the 28 feet because when you open up the doors inside, you're not hitting the walls. 14 feet, with the 24-foot wide garage, by the time you lose a foot of the interior foundation, you're down to 22 feet wide. You open up the truck doors and you're whacking one another. So that's why I like to go 28 feet wide. It's just a nice area. The depth also allows you to put a workbench in the very far back of it, so that you lose 2.5 feet worth of bench or whatever, so that helps for storage and such. So it's an ideal garage. I mean, if you can fit it and you're permitted, it's less is more.
Okay, that back corner, is that really less than 3 feet?
No, I just went to 3 feet for the overhang of the
my map says 2
soffits.
feet with overset, so we want to make sure it's at least 3 feet, or let's.
Well, you're
from the
asking for
neighbors.
3 feet. We still have the
Right.
rest of the board and the
Right.
abutters to hear from. Kitty, any questions?
No.
Everyone else, John, you okay?
no questions?
Okay, I'll hear from the abutters now, and thank you for your patience.
Can we see the pictures? I haven't seen any of them.
Yes, please come forward.
2 feet is news to us.
I'm assuming, can you identify yourself? Are you the,
Yeah, we are. We're
Matthew? Names for the record, please.
Matthew LePan?
I'm sorry, say it so the person,
Matthew LePan,
spell it.
M-A-T-T-H-E-W,
Yeah, I
L-A-P-A-N.
I know what it is, but the person transcribing is going to hear it.
And I'm Deborah LePan.
Thank you.
Deborah McCaffrey.
Okay. And you are what number?
151 King.
Thank you. Now tell us, or now take a look at the picture. This is what this is what's here. This is what he's proposing. He's saying this is going to be 8 foot to the overhang. This is going to start at 9.3, but it's going to reduce down to 3 foot at that corner.
So it is a rear variance too?
He's looking for a rear variance and a side
And the
variance.
Okay, he had mentioned not the rear, so that is the side and the back.
Yeah.
And like I said, we look at it,
He's-
yell at your face.
No, it's
Oh,
okay,
that's
you're
okay.
fine.
That's all right. You're supposed to be able to come up
We're
here.
Ask
here,
questions up
there.
we're here for the
I didn't
abutters.
know if we needed to
Oh,
be back here to ask
thank you.
questions.
This is also what he's describing to be the area of the leach field.
Yeah.
So in terms of shuffling it over, there's not a whole lot of space to do that.
And
So
this-
why is it starting further back than it initially was?
Because the house
Well,
is right
let him
here.
answer. Let the applicant answer. Thank you.
If I came further forward, it's like right at the rear end of the house, so there's no way to go not to connect them. So that you still need the walkway in between. If there's something that, you know, I mean, if you tell me what you're really interested in as far as it, if you'd, and again, the gentleman said I didn't think it had to go back, but the idea was we moved it back so that it still had the walkway in between the house and the garage.
Yeah, I guess our biggest problem is that it's gonna be a second floor as well.
No.
That's what he told us. He told us that it was going up 8 to 10 feet.
Well, that's by the time you put a wall up there and you got, then on top of the wall, it's gonna be probably a 6 pitch, and then 20 feet wide be 7. So the total height of it would be somewhere around 17 feet tall or something, which is
He
about
said
the same
8
height.
He said 8 to 10 feet higher than it currently is what he mentioned to
Yeah,
me.
that's reasonable, yes, because the shed right there is not very tall.
So,
Where-
I
Excuse
think
me,
it is pretty
where,
tall.
where is your house in relation to this line? Where is your house?
It's like right
You're right there, so you're gonna be
we
looking at
currently
the side of
have-
a barn.
Yes, and we'll have windows that we're then looking into our house where we just put up a privacy fence there and spent money on it to get a little extra privacy, and now we'll have a big building.
Sit down right in the front, just so you're comfortable, and you can take this with you if you
So-
want to keep it to reference.
I will put no
I just
windows on
don't
that
want you to
side.
feel like your back is to everybody.
Okay.
I will put
So-
no windows
So,
on your entire side.
through the chair, please, Mr.
Oh,
Scott,
sorry.
thank you.
When you talk about the 7 or 8 feet higher than the first story, you're just talking about a pitched roof, is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you planning to put in a walk-up finished space at all up there?
No, it may have attic trusses just for storage because they have no basement in the main house. They have no attic really in the main house. So an attic truss would be nothing more than just an open bay up inside of it. But it's, as far as livable space, usable, be nothing more than storage.
So typically, this board has to decide between special permits and variances. If you are changing, extending, or altering a pre-existing nonconformity, that would be a special permit, and that is very leniently granted because people are living on undersized lots with pre-existing nonconformities, and it's hard to shoehorn in everything you need. If you are creating new nonconformities and new variances from our setback requirements, I think the review is a little more stringent. It has to meet the standards of a variance, which means that you have to prove that your lot has features that no other lot like it has, and that it is a substantial hardship if your client is not granted the requested relief, and that this can be done without substantial detriment to the neighbors or the public good, based on the zoning bylaw. This board's always practiced that if we have an abutter who has reason, and legitimate reason, to complain or to have that be a problem for them, this variance be a problem for them, that's a substantial detriment. And we have to weigh the need of the applicant versus the, I want to say politely, the upset to the neighbor. So what we've done continually with this board, and I think it's a very lenient board, we have always tried to negotiate with the parties and see if you can't reach a compromise. I sort of liked the direction Rod was going in with a reduction in size of the garage. We all want what we want, but we all can't get what we want. And this board is not about wants, this is about needs.
Okay.
And these abutters have said, why can't you move it closer to the house? And that would not eliminate so much the view from your window as you've just described it to me. So what would moving it closer to the house do for you?
I just thought that to continue the nonconformity of the current shed, I didn't understand why it was moving backwards and getting closer to our property line.
Because he's making it bigger is really
Yeah.
what's happening,
Right.
because he hasn't changed the line that's against the property line or the distance from the property line. He's just made more of it.
I don't know about the picture, but the picture looks to me like it's angled just a little bit more than it was previously.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
so if the upstairs, the roof line, had no windows, does it have windows?
I do feel better about that.
Okay.
I do.
And
A lot
I
better.
have a feeling that you don't care about the back line, how close they are to the
No,
back
gosh,
line
no,
at all.
yeah.
But you do care about how close they are to your line.
Just, I thought there would be
So
windows.
if it was swung a little bit more out,
Why don't we look at the concept to be no windows facing their side, their property?
Well, if there's no windows in the roof, in the.
No, but no windows on the sidewall either. So the wall of the garage facing their fence has no windows in
They have
it.
a privacy fence. How tall is your privacy fence?
6 feet. So
Okay, so you don't care if there are windows in the garage on the first floor, do you?
I would still be able to see them over, I think, but if I don't know, are the windows taller than 6 feet?
Under most circumstances. You could get up to 7 feet, but there will be no windows on that side of that, or I'll keep them below 6 feet if maybe just some like jealousy type windows. They will be below 6 feet to the top of the window.
People should be able to have light in their garage.
Oh, I totally agree, but just having it right over, like, at I was worried that there was gonna be a second floor from the way he had mentioned it to me 2 months ago. He mentioned going up 8 to 10 feet, so that sounded like a
That's just
whole
the pitch of
separate
the roof.
floor.
Yeah.
So I was concerned that we'd have windows looking over our yard, when we already have windows from the apartment complex
Peter,
looking
what
over
so
our
what
yards.
happens if we go to a 7 pitch? Does that bring it down?
Actually, that's what I was looking for anyways. I think the main house is an 8, and I try to keep them very close to one another.
You
So I
look
might
at
even
it
be
that
able to
way,
get
but
away
if
with the
you
6.
can get down to a 6 pitch, that would
that's-
take a lot of the sting out of this, too.
Yeah, it's, again, by the time you put a garage door and everything else into it and get inside with it. He's got one of them little nice go-fast cars. Have you seen that? So that's one of the reasons for it to get it out of the weather and.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that we're maintaining the privacy of our
Yes.
yard and not feeling
I
like
think
we
you'll
have
get
a
more
building
privacy,
looking
yeah.
over our.
Yeah, you'll get more
Yeah, well, I was
privacy.
thinking the closer it moves to our fence, the more that they'll have to take, like, the trees, and we have trees in our yard, but they kind of hang over there, so we're losing pretty much all of the leaf coverage when you build that.
Do the best I can not to take any branches down or anything like that.
We
And at
also-
any point in time, I'm sorry, through the chair, at any point in time you have any concerns, just come over. and-
Great, because none of these came up until this week when I asked about the hearing, so then I was a
All
little
right.
nervous about things.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was probably my fault.
We also have to be concerned about what the future use is going to be. It might be a very nice neighbor with a very nice fast car today, and it might be my son and his rock band in that second story tomorrow. So-
There's no second story. We just
No
I know,
second
I'm just,
story.
well, this is a big garage, and you just never know what the next owner's going to do with it, so
Oh,
we
let's
want to be
see.
careful about that.
So-
Do I have any other abutters? Yes, come forward, please. Have you seen the plan?
I have a copy.
And will you identify yourself,
Please
please?
send my copy back.
James Caparella, 159 King Street.
the other side.
The other side.
No, you live on the other
You
side.
live on- yes,
I know, that's what we meant.
So
Come
this
on.
less impact to me, my concern is, and I have no problem with the porch in front that they're proposing. I'm just concerned about the drainage and runoff. It is a big roof, and it's not so much going to impact me unless it's running that direction, but again, more so, maybe impacting the pans if you've got that roof overhang and you don't have a lot of
Well,
setbacks.
there's not going to be any more water coming down than there was in any other
Right. But is
instance.
there any drainage, gutters or anything proposed to direct
Uh,
that water someplace?
Presently, no. I mean, I hate gutters, to be honest with you.
Okay. I have them on mine, they're great.
Yeah,
But
well-
I'm just saying, I mean, it's.
I
I've
can
seen it
address
be
it with
an
the
issue.
homeowner and see if there's a way we could put, I call them graves.
Yeah.
But because the septic is there, I don't want to add more water to the septic
Right,
field
exactly.
with
And that was my
that.
other concern as well.
Yeah.
Because I know they did have some septic issues a few years ago, and so they do have a vent, you know. that-
Right, I'm going to take that vent and run it into the building and up through the roof, so
Okay.
it's not as obtrusive.
Okay. I mean,
Could
addresses
I
those.
ask, based on that, you have a front-to-back roof line going on here. Can you put crushed stone at that 8-foot offset area to the back lot line? Just to catch some of that water?
Yeah, again, the only thing I'm worried about is that if I take all that water and put it in one particular spot, that's the only thing I'm just worried about. I'll ask an engineer and see if there's an issue with it, and I'll come over and have the conversation with you, make sure that, I'll show you what they propose.
Sure, appreciate it.
All right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, it seems to me that this is certainly creating a new
Non-conformity?
non-conformity. It really has to be a variance, but with the size and topography of the lot, they would qualify for a variance.
So you're going to find that because of the size and topography and the location of the septic system, they have a hardship,
Yes,
and the lot is unique.
yes. She's spoon-feeding me a decision.
Well, we haven't decided yet. Let's poll the board. Kitty, what do you think?
Like Rod, I was concerned that why not just stick with something smaller, and with your subsequent comment, which mirrored my thought about everything might be hunky-dory now, but of course we have to also plan for future occupants who might not be so hunky-dory, and to make sure that the concerns that any neighbors may have, any abutters may have, aren't capable of being abused in the future with a further expansion on the space that's there. And the need versus want. If the size of the garage could be reduced somewhat to the footprint that would be allowable, notwithstanding the fact that the owner wants slightly more space, that seems a little more consistent with what we would tend to do. I don't see anything quite so compelling to make it such a larger footprint on the property, and to allow that expansion into the neighbor's space, albeit small to us, but certainly large to the neighbor. So I think it probably could be reduced to the more standard size without really impacting the petitioner, the applicant.
Thank you. Rod?
Yeah, it would be nice if you knew exactly how much space you needed, as opposed to how much space you want, to see if that 28 can come down any.
Well, I know he has a full-size pickup truck, he has the other car, and his wife drives an SUV also. So with the depth of it, and put the one car in that he's gonna store sideways, then the other two will fit in.
They'll all have electric cars.
Putting a
They're
third
smaller,
car in
aren't
there?
We can fit 3 cars in there. If one goes sideways at the end, you put it on dollies and spin it sideways.
Huh, okay.
So, I mean, he has a plan for that size, and it just fit, like in your case, you said you're 24 wide by 26?
28.
28, so. as you
Yeah,
can
we
see.
don't have a pickup truck, and I know
Yeah.
pickup trucks are kind of wide. But that's interesting, putting a third one at the end kind of justifies the increased depth. And I don't think anybody cares about the back setback. Just it'd be nice to reduce the side back setback a little bit. But, you know, if the Lappins don't have any real issue with it, with no windows or low windows, I'm not going to have any heartburn over it.
Eli?
That's where I was at, as long as the neighbors are okay with the window configuration and the overall height, I would be okay with it.
Cheryl?
I would like to add a restriction that it not have a second story. I don't know if we can, if there's a way to do that? I think there is.
Could do that.
That it's never increased in height. I have no problem with the rear setback or it being 32 feet long. I think that the 28 feet probably is to allow for 2 garage bays and a door.
Yes.
So maybe the door goes on the side and it's only 26, but if you can cant it so that it is no more, say, you know, my minimum to me in real hardships is 3 feet from anything, just for maintenance value. But if you can cant it so you're more than, you know, the original shed's 9, it just seems like you could turn it a little bit and keep that setback a little bit bigger.
Might make access to the doors easier too.
It would be, wouldn't it?
John?
But maybe the door should be on we should make sure the door's on the middle of the property, or maybe these people would prefer the door to be in the front and have it be a little bit bigger and not a door near their place. I don't want to re-engineer your plan.
Very careful not to build the garage for you. Excuse me,
Right.
let me pull the board, please. John?
Yeah, my first thought was it is large, and I didn't realize I'm going to put 3 cars in it. I mean, I have a new garage 6 years ago, and mine's 24 deep and 26 wide, and I mean, I don't have a pickup truck anymore, but it still has acres of space inside. And so, I said, maybe making it a little bit smaller wouldn't hurt, but other than that, as long as the neighbors are happy that there's no windows so people can't peer in from the garage into their backyard, and I have no issue with it.
Thank you.
And John Field?
I tend to agree. I have no issue with the size, but I think it's important to have the conditions that would limit the use down the road to no development on the second floor. and windows is to provide as much privacy as possible for abutters.
I have a small comment, and I don't know if it's valid. I understand that nobody has a problem with the back lot line, but to me, 28 by 32 is large, and yet I have no problem with a 28-foot width, because you do need the width for the doors, 2 doors, and the pickup truck, and the mirrors, and especially me, I always hit things. But if it was 30, wouldn't you get the same bang for your buck, come a little off that back corner, have less of an imposing structure, and still be able to get everything you need in there?
As far as the imposing structure is on the depth, on the length of it, you know, that's 2 feet,
Yeah.
right? Now, by the time you take it, like my pickup truck out is 23 feet long, just by itself. And by the time you get in the foot, 10 inches worth of concrete in the front, 10 inches in the back, and the door coming down, you've lost that 2 feet. So it just, everything just absolutely works. And again, the back of it is the only place we're losing anything is to the pond side structure behind it. So I can ask them, but I'd like to try and stay with what we have, to be honest with you.
Well, your board members voting are going to be Kitty, Rod, myself, Cheryl, and John. And you need 4 out of 5 votes.
Okay.
And I have 2 that would like to see a little smaller, I think.
Can you, one more question. The shed itself, which line you're drawing right next to, or your drawing goes right across this shed, the shed itself, at where the shed ends, is almost 10 feet from the side. It's 9.3. How far from that sideline do you think you could move it and safely and have it work still?
It has to do with the back of the house where the I would
No, I'm
say
just
the-
saying, if you tilt it, not if you, right at the moment, it tilts towards these folks' property. If you tip it more, can they still get in and out of the car, out of the garage safely? But
It basically, doesn't it turn it so that the front doors are now facing closer to the house? So when you, instead of.
No, the other
No,
way.
the other way, turn it the other way.
Then I think we can accommodate you a little bit more if, I just gotta watch out for the septic on the back left side.
That means if you leave that size and you start to turn it, you're going to increase that 2-foot offset, Cheryl, but you're going to decrease the 8-foot. Going to come down to 7 or 6, I
I'm
think.
not worried at all about the back side.
I'm not either, I'm worried about the size of the
I mean, I
structure.
want to, as long as there's enough room to maintain
When you
it.
rotate this, it
I
gets
know.
tighter here.
Oh. Does it? No, it doesn't. You can leave that corner where it is and just swing that way.
Oh, you're going to kick the back out.
I want to kick the back over
Yeah,
towards the
problem
middle.
is, That's the septic
But I think
system.
it's just,
Yeah,
The
but
question
it's
is, how
right there.
close can that corner go to
And
the
there,
septic
that
system?
little dot, that's the vent pipe coming up.
Oh,
she's saying,
so you can't
He's
take it
putting the
much.
vent pipe inside.
He is going to run the vent pipe
Yeah,
into
but
the
you
building.
can't run it up
I
to the
don't
middle
move it
of the
over. It
parking
hits the
spot.
back of the house.
Yeah, he can, he can run up the wall
and
and
it
then up.
impedes.
All right, well, I think that we've exhausted the discussion about this, unless you have anything last things to say, Mr. Scott, or about us.
No,
Okay.
just whenever any construction starts or whatever, you have any questions at all, starting too early, working too late, I don't care what it is, just come over and say something, okay?
Any other abutters? Anybody else want to be heard? Then I will, going once, going twice, take a motion to close.
I move, we close the meeting?
Second.
No, not the meeting.
Not the meeting. No,
Second.
Wrong meeting, sorry.
we can discuss it between ourselves still.
Yeah.
John Sewell moves to close the hearing,
Yeah, yeah.
and Rod to second. Okay.
Now we can discuss amongst ourselves.
Does anyone have a problem with the front?
No.
Okay, that's easy.
I mean, it's not that much further up, and like you said, there's a ton of space to the actual pavement, so.
Did you give me a check?
Right at the beginning.
Okay. Board member comments, anybody want to further the discussion, or you've all said what you need to say?
I think
I'll
so, just
entertain
put
a
the
motion.
restriction that it needs to be at least 3 feet.
You ready to make the motion?
Not really.
Come on, you're an old salt.
Okay, start the first one. The front porch and overhang, no closer than 28 feet from the road.
Off the road property line, front property line.
From
Well,
property
at the
line.
King Street.
Yeah, but from the
No,
front
from
property
the-
line, not
from
from
the
the
property.
Well,
property.
yeah, right, for the right of way of the King Street. And the garage to be no larger than 28 and by 32, and the minimum setback to the side lot has to be at least 3 feet. And any windows in that side top should not be above 6 feet from grade.
And the upstairs,
Oh, yeah, and the upstairs cannot be developed into any kind of space other than casual storage.
Take a second.
Second.
I think you're not a voting alternate, so I think you can't second today. Sorry. Wait your turn, it's coming. Okay,
I'll second.
Kitty will second. All those in favor signify by saying aye, and I'm going to roll call you so that the transcriber can hear it, please. Kitty? Say your name and yes or no.
Kitty O'Connor, yes.
Rod Stewart, yes.
Cheryl Cowley Hollinger, yes.
John Sewell, yes.
And Cheryl Gould, yes. You've gotten both of your variances.
And actually, puts trusses up for the roof. You can't really do much up there other than
With
slide
the short of
stuff between.
tearing the whole
You
thing
take
down.
the
no.
trusses down.
Yeah, but I just don't want it in the
Yeah.
future to be suddenly
No, I know.
an in-law.
Okay.
Well, that septic system
You're
will
all
take care of
set.
that problem.
I did already, but thank you very much, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
The septic system, you could put an in-law in.
Thank you for
Just to
coming.
put the sewer. Let's go, we sewer to King Street.
On the front, you said overhang, with overhang no
With
closer
overhang,
than
no-
28
right.
feet.
Yep.
I missed it.
To the property line. Yes, 28 feet's what he proposed.
Okay. Sorry, we're running a little bit late for those of you who came for the second hearing, which is,
This picture doesn't help much.
Yeah,
Because I don't even see the road, and their house looks like it's way
I'm
over
calling
there.
case number 22-958. It's 7:20 PM case at 370 Hardwood Ave. The petition is Richard Halloran and Lombardo Loam Company, seek an appeal from the decision of the Assistant Zoning Enforcement Officer to cease and desist processing earth materials. Since it is your cease and desist order, Mr. Building Commissioner, I will ask you to state your case, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's good to see you, all you board members. It's been a while. So, yeah, we were, this actually came about in a rather strange way. We were doing an enforcement on another piece of property in town. It was a residential neighborhood. There was firewood being processed on that lot, and it didn't meet the agricultural restriction that other areas in town where other farms have had that agricultural exemption for firewood processing. So when we went to do the enforcement at that location, and we were doing our research, we actually found case law dating back to a decision in 2018 that stated that firewood processing, stump grinding, and mulching were never considered agricultural. So when that happened, we have gotten several complaints about Halloran's Farm at 370 Harwood Ave for noise in the processing of the loam, not so much the firewood, but once we really, the processing of the loam or the screening was always considered an accessory use to agricultural.
I'm sorry, I have to stop you for a minute, and pardon me. I meant to appoint the alternate as Elliot.
Absolutely.
I mean, as Eli. so-
Oh, I forgot to remind you.
I suggested I was going to do that and then forgot to do it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
You don't need it? Give it.
I stole another piece of paper from you. Okay, go ahead.
So we were getting complaints about noise from the screening of the loam at the site at Halloran's Farm. So as we did our research and we realized that they didn't have the protection anymore, or never actually had it for agricultural accessory use, we went out, we delivered a cease and desist notice. My assistant, Mike Kenny, went out and delivered the notice. They did cease immediately. We've had several discussions, and Mr. Halloran has agreed that, you know, he can certainly move forward with his firewood processing in a fashion that is suitable and has always been suitable for the last 30 years, understanding that he doesn't get the accessory protection or the agricultural protection for an accessory use. For him to continue with his protection under 61A, he does have to grow, plant, or produce on 25% of his land, so he's going to have to do some farming to get that protection on there. As far as the Lombardos go in their operation, they have not been there since the day they received their cease and desist. They discussed with me options, and my office, with your support, we were willing to support a temporary variance just so that they could remove the product that they have and finish what they had started by supporting their request for 3 months with limited hours of operation, instead of running 7 to 5, but running 9 to 3 for the next 3 months, just to get their product completed and off the site so that Mr. Haller can go back to farming and processing firewood.
3 months.
Not yet, please. You done?
I am, thank you.
Okay, I would like the applicant for the appeal to come and state his case, and then the board members can ask questions or to rebut. Introduce yourself for the record.
Hi there, Rich Heller, 370 Harwood. How's everybody doing? I just want to wish to continue removing the soil from the site, and the best way to do so would be to use that screening machine, run it through the screener, and then remove it. I am aware that it was very loud, the machine, and I think over time the machine started to wear down and just become extremely noisy. So there's been measures taken since then where it's been, disassembled. Some new bearings have been added, and I think it's going to make a big difference. If we can get permission to work there for a short time, the dirt will be out of there and be on to the next guy. That's about the best we can do there.
And is Mr. Lombardo here?
Yeah.
Did he want to speak? Do you want to speak?
Matt Lombardo Loom. Yeah, we were unaware of the excessive noise that screener was making. And once we got the cease and desist, we looked into it a little further and realized that we did have some bearing issues. I have some paperwork of the state that we've actually did the work, and invoices and stuff, parts. And so we do realize there was a noise issue. We didn't realize it was as bad as maybe it was. So we're hoping that because the noise is cut down, we can just continue to screen with that, the conservative hours, 9 to 3, and then, within the 3 months, get that material out of there, and that will be in compliance with the zoning. We didn't know we weren't in compliance with the zoning. Kind of felt like we were, so it was kind of a surprise to us, I guess.
So I'm going to read the letter of the building commissioner which started this process, because I'm a little confused myself, but maybe we can go a little slower and fix it. The letter was written to Catherine Goldring and Richard Halloran, I think who are the record owners of the property, relative to a zoning violation. This is from Mike Kenny, the building inspector assistant. Ms. Goldring and Mr. Halloran, the current commercial firewood production operation at 370 Harwood Ave in Littleton is not an allowed use of this property pursuant to the Town of Littleton zoning bylaw. In addition, the commercial processing of earth material for sale is also not an allowed use of this property pursuant to the zoning bylaw. These activities are a violation of the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning bylaws, Chapter 17325 and Use Table 17326. Accordingly, I hereby order you to cease and desist these activities immediately, and then there were references to the fines. I thought I heard you, Mr. Mullins, state that you're no longer concerned of the firewood production problem, and that you believe that to be a grandfathered use?
Correct. So, that's correct, Madam Chair. The operation for processing firewood's been on site for over 30 years. We don't have any history of complaints in the files of the firewood processing. There are other files, other complaints on file for mulching in the past, and so there's that history, but there's never been complaints about the firewood processing. It is a grandfathered use. It's been going on for 30 years. It's primarily what Mr. Halloran does on site. Once Mr. Halloran replants his land up to 25%, the firewood processing would then be an accessory use, just like Pickard's Farm has.
I'm confused about why he needs to establish an accessory use if he's already a grandfathered use. Just clarify that for me.
Because
He can do either way.
He can do it either
get
way.
either way. So he can either, he can do agricultural or produce product up to 25% of his land to get this protection under 61A. And then he can also operate the firewood as an accessory use, or you guys can grant a variance saying that it's a grandfathered use, or those are the two best options, your choice.
I don't know why.
we would, and I do, and I would have a problem with that.
Wait, stop a minute. I don't understand legally why a board needs to grant a variance for a grandfathered use. If there is a use that's been going on since before zoning was enacted,
It's not,
that use can continue without action by any board.
Correct. I think the reason is that it's not before zoning.
Pardon me?
30 years, he's, so
Which
Mass
is-
General
But it's
Law.
not been enforced either.
Right, so Mass General Law would probably, if we were not to grant Mr. Hallen a variance, my concern would be that the use is over 30 years. Anything typically over 10 years in use in Mass General Law under zoning is grandfathered. So should he appeal a decision not to grant the variance, he most likely would win in court.
So I'm going to ask, I'm sorry, I'm just going to ask again. Procedurally, he's here before us on a cease and desist order. And as I read the order, the cease and desist order says cease the firewood operation and cease the earth removal.
Correct.
I'd like to take it as two separate things, because the firewood operation, by your own admission from your own seat, says that's grandfathered, and I can't really enforce his removal of that. Is that what you're saying? Or his ceasing and desisting that? And so, in that regard, if that was the only thing before us, we would have to side with him, because you essentially have to waive, you just, please let me just finish, because it's procedural. I'm asking the question.
and he's answered it twice. He said there has to have protection under 61A,
No, that's not what he said at all.
and that he needs to plant 25% of his land, because
That's not what he
otherwise it
said.
wouldn't be.
I'm sorry, that's not what he said.
He has both.
He
the
has
options.
both.
Two different options.
He has either a grandfathered use, or if he wants to, he can establish his property as a 61A property, in which case he then has to prove that he's planted 25% of it, and prove annually that he keeps 25% in agricultural production. But he's already grandfathered, he doesn't have to do that, is what Mr. Mullen is saying. As to the earth removal, I'm going to take that separately. I understand that's the real offense or offender here, and that's the one we're going to focus on. But I'm concerned about the firewood production, because that is something that you have said to me in the other instance, even, that you told me that if it's completely done on your own land, it's akin to a home operation.
Correct.
I mean, a home
That is-
occupation.
Yep,
And
that's
so I
correct.
just want to distinguish that, because Mr. Halloran's been before this board a number of times on violations over the past, and I know he's been cooperative in the past, and it seems that they're here today to be cooperative, but I want to establish the firewood either by virtue of your withdrawal or by virtue of this board finding for him, or if the board wants to consider it a variance, we can talk about that. I just want you all to see procedurally what I'm seeing, and that is that the firewood operation was grandfathered, is grandfathered, has been over 10 years without enforcement action.
That is
Okay.
correct.
So now, let's go to the earth removal, and then the board can ask all the questions they want. Or go to the earth removal part, please. And that is, you admit that the earth removal is outside of the bounds of either a home occupation or your history. You admit that it's caused a nuisance in the neighborhood that needs to be addressed. You've done some things to mitigate, and you're asking for a temporary suspense of the enforcement order for 3 months. I'd rather not call it a variance, I'd rather call it a suspense of the enforcement order for 3 months, which is what we've done in the past to allow other offenders, not 3 months, but decided on some time to allow other offenses to stop. So now, as I see it, there's two issues. Now the board can ask all the questions they want, please.
The soil, it really isn't an earth removal process, because the earth's not coming from the farm. They're trucking material in, processing it, and then trucking material out. So it's really a manufacturing process rather than an earth removal process. Even if it was a full-fledged farm, I don't think that would meet the requirements of bringing material onto your farm, processing it, and shipping it all out again. So I don't have a major issue with the concept of letting them finish grading it and getting it out. It's good to hear that they've done some work on the equipment to make it quieter. I guess the one thing I would like to know about is what precautions are you going to make for dust?
We actually have a water truck up there. We got that towards the end of, well, actually middle of summer last year.
Because that's, I mean, I like the fact that the noise will be contained to a more reasonable hour of the day,
Yeah.
but we need to also make sure we contain the dust so that we don't have
Yeah.
dust blowing all over people's backyards.
Sure.
I have a question for Mr. Mullins. I just don't understand this. You're saying that any use on a piece of property that happens for 10 years that without complaints is automatically grandfathered?
Most of the time. 99, yeah, so Mass General Law, always, the grandfathering occurs,
But it's illegal.
yes.
Well, this is against zoning, and zoning
No,
was
no,
in
no,
place
I'm
before
talking
it
Yeah.
started.
illegal, like,
Like, yeah.
making drugs or something.
If I can,
No.
if no action's been taken for 10 years, it
Just-
cannot be
correct.
enforced
It'd
by
be
the
just like
zoning
if
enforcement
somebody
officer.
built a house within the setbacks, and it existed too close to the property line for more than 10 years. That violation of that setback is allowed by right after 10 years. So it's the same idea, he's operated for over 30 years, so without a complaint for 10 years against the firewood operation, he's grandfathered.
Not a complaint
I
from
just
the
wanna
neighbor, a
understand,
complaint
I'm
from the
not-
zoning department.
Right, there's no enforcement or action or order taken against the firewood operation.
I really don't have a problem with the firewood operation. I just want to clarify
Sure.
how this works, because the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up, and the idea that anyone can do anything, and if it exists for 10 years, it's suddenly grandfathered.
It's Mass General Law.
Always been that way.
Has it always been that way?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Halloran, you've been before us before, we're bringing stuff into your property
Yeah, well,
and
that-
doing things with it.
Yes.
Can you please stop? I mean, not,
Okay,
don't
all
bring
right,
any
you've
more.
made your point.
And
Next.
also, no, and also, why 3 months? That's an awful long time to clear out property, clear out existing dirt.
Ask Mr. Lombardo.
There's a fair amount of dirt there, and with weather
I-
conditions, we just want to be safe.
I drove up around and by, and 3 months seems extreme, no matter how big that, piece of dirt looked. And I'm feeling for the neighbors, and it's very nice that you've fixed your equipment now, but it's very sad that you let it get that way. And
Well, it's not a thing that just happens overnight. It's something that kind of slowly gets deteriorated, and you might not notice that it, if you're right next to it every day, you don't notice that it's slowly getting louder and louder. I mean, somebody that's not around it might, if you heard it like a year ago and then you heard it, you might notice a difference.
We're only asking for June, July, and August, Cheryl, so,
We're just trying to cut the
whole
truck,
summer.
yeah.
trying to cut
But
the truck
between
traffic down.
9 to 3, I mean, it's not going to kill anybody. We'll be out of there before you know it.
Mr. Lombardo, is there a shorter period of time that will work for you?
That you could speed up.
I mean, we can try, it's just right now is our busy season, so we're gonna try to do it quicker, because, we sell loom, and we're gonna try to get it up quicker, but also, the quicker we do it, the more traffic we create, more dust, so we're trying to keep the water down, to alleviate the dust, but we're just trying to do it slow and steady, I guess, is really what,
So you want to do this as you need the dirt?
well, as we sell it, yeah, because we don't have
As
a
you
place to
sell it.
bring, that, there's probably, I'm gonna guesstimate yardage, but there's a lot there, but we don't have another place to bring all of it. We have to kind of, we sell it as we screen it. We screen it and then we deliver it, we disperse it. But if we were to take the whole pile, we have no other place to bring the whole pile.
So basically, the time is based on your sales ability?
All that and places to bring it and
Where did it come from?
multiple different sites, surplus material off of construction sites.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah, let me go around though. I missed John Field, and then I'm going to go Eli, and then you, if that's all right. Do you mind,
No?
John Field?
My only issues would be to condition the work so that there was positive dust control, and then have it'd be nice to be able to assign a quantity or a volume so that we could try to have as low an impact as possible. I think that limiting the hours is a good idea, and I think that not loading up on equipment and on site to try to cut the time down to process is also a good idea. And I think lastly, have a firm deadline that the work must be completed by, or there would be no more, or there would be enforcement after that.
Thank you. Eli?
That's exactly what I would have said. Just remove it within reason in the timeframe.
And now your turn.
Are you buying or selling this soil?
It's for sale.
Do you have a soil removal permit from the select board?
No, Brian? We're not removing soil. This is soil brought in, processed, and then that.
It's just topsoil brought in, put to a screener, and then removed.
Why are you bringing it in to screen it and then remove it? You're not using it to reclaim the land so you can plant?
No, this is dirt that's brought in unscreened and then rescreened and used for like.
Okay, so it's not required to make 25% of your property plantable for agriculture?
So, if I may.
So you're just, you're just doing this, that kind of changes some of my thinking.
So originally, the thought was the screening of the loom was a protected accessory use to agricultural. They've lost that protection. And they lost that protection, it became a violation of zoning. So they understand what's happened, that they no longer have the protection of an accessory use to agricultural. They're just asking that now that we've learned and enforced on them that they are in violation, they're asking for a certain amount of time to remove the product that they had brought in and haven't completed the processing.
Mr. Mullen, what you just said makes me think, they were originally with the assessors under 61A as an agriculture place.
Correct.
And there is soil processing is an accessory use to agriculture if you are legitimately in agriculture use.
Correct.
But Richard has lost his agricultural protection because he wasn't planting more than 25%, so he's not a real agricultural use.
Correct.
Had he not lost that agricultural use because he had planted 25%, or if he plants 25% again, can he bring in another soil removal processing as an accessory to the agricultural use next year?
I would say not likely because the fire would claim that seat.
What does that
Firewood,
mean?
the processing of firewood would be the accessory use to agriculture.
You'd have two.
So
Oh, you
can
can't
only
have two
one.
accessory uses to the agriculture.
You'd have to
use.
go for a special permit from the planning board.
But what if his, I'm sorry, this gets
No, it
complicated.
does, yeah.
If this firewood processing is grandfathered,
Mhm.
and then he registers as, because this is what's gonna bother Cheryl the most, if he registers then as agriculture, and he says, now I want soil processing as an accessory use, and I'm not gonna have you count the firewood as accessory because I'm grandfathered, are we
Obviously, you
opening the
can't do
door?
that.
Why?
So-
That's ridiculous. You can't have two accessory uses. Just because you're grandfathered on one doesn't mean you can suddenly have another.
Yeah, it does.
No, it does not.
I think if you were to limit through a variance, you could do it that way. You could-
Limit what to a variance?
The accessory uses, or Mr. Hallen would have to go to the just as Mr. Pickard did, he did go to the planning board for his special permit for firewood processing because it was more than one accessory use on his site, so.
Okay, can I continue?
Yeah.
Let's see if I'm losing my train of thought. So how, if you brought no more material in and you only removed what's there, how long do you really need, 3 months?
At the most, 3 months, yeah.
That's what we're thinking. I mean, there's a fair amount there. I mean, it took us the better part of 8 months to a year to bring it all in there, so we're trying to.
Okay, so I have a procedural question. Could the cease and desist order be rewritten to say no material comes in, you have 3 months to remove that material and limit the hours of operation, and then start assessing fine in 3 months? And if that's the case, we wouldn't have to do anything?
No, but you're on the right track. We have to do something.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
appealing the cease and desist.
Right.
And in our decision, we can make conditions that include, don't bring any more material in.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get to where you
Yeah,
wanna
that's
get.
a definite understanding, we already understand that, now we're not gonna push it.
Yeah, we're not gonna bring any more material in. We're just gonna get the site cleaned up and be gone,
Yeah.
so.
I was just thinking a new cease and desist order might cover the situation.
No, because they're here appealing it, and we have to make a decision on that appeal.
Yeah, we could hold until a new cease and desist is written if that was an appropriate approach. But whichever, just a thought.
Kidding.
If I may, sorry, Kitty, if I may, I'd rather hold the original cease and desist in place, because should they fail or should they not show good faith, we can go back to when the clock originally started ticking. So that gives us the leverage to apply.
Okay.
Questions?
I just, I'm trying to draw the distinction between the soil removal issue and this particular process and bringing stuff in. Is, if this was a true soil removal, like we had a case last year or whenever it was, would that be an additional allowable accessory, or, I just don't understand the process, and
So
this may be.
if I may, just so we can move away from it, it's not soil removal, it's soil processing.
Right.
I just want to make sure we don't keep saying that, because that is a special permit through the select board.
Okay.
So, soil processing is not an allowed use in a residential neighborhood. So the time that they're requesting to remove the product that they've already brought in, from the point of view of my department, is reasonable. We certainly don't want to harm businesses in town. We just want to make sure that they're in compliance with zoning. So with the reduction in hours and the dust control that's been offered, we feel it's a reasonable request to give them 3 months.
And did you say if they don't meet the 3 months, the fines are retroactive back to the date of the cease and desist?
Well, that's part of our
It gives-
decision.
Well, it gives us leverage. You can decide whether we issue a new one or whether we hold the one in place, but it does provide leverage in the discussion.
Mr. DeCoste.
I was returning cable, but I was intrigued.
It's always intriguing here. Letters. I have letters that go with this case that I would like to read. I'm going to get the abutters second, but these letters are the initial letters for the case that I haven't read completely yet, and I just want to read them. As a result of the cease and desist order, Lombardo came right away to the, oh, I'm sorry, that's not true. As a result of this appeal, Lombardo has filed a letter. He's the applicant. Dear board members, this letter is in regards to the recent cease and desist order on parcel U3146, 370 Harwood Ave. This parcel was being utilized by our company as a material processing site. As we understood, the site uses were acceptable per the previous tenant at the facility. We now understand we're in violation of town bylaws created in 2017, and the material currently on site needs to be removed. We respectfully ask the board to consider allowing us to finish processing the material currently on site at reduced hours of operation in a steady and timely manner. To move the material at a faster rate would cause more noise and traffic than previous operations. We are currently asking for 9 to 3 Monday through Friday for a 90-day time period with a possible 30-day extension. And then the building commissioner, Assistant Zoning Enforcement Officer Mike Kenny wrote, Dear Board of Appeals, I endorse the plan proposed by Matthew Lombardo in regards to that parcel. The proposed plan will remove the material in the least obtrusive way, alleviating noise and truck traffic on Harwood Ave and Newtown Road. I also would endorse a 30-day extension if needed. So that's right from the building department. Now I'd like to hear from abutters who are here, and then I have 2 abutters who wrote in that we'll hear last. Any abutters? Yes, sir. Your name, please.
My name is Peter McLaurin, 517 Newtown Road. We've been living in that property since 1978. It's been used for multiple purposes, Mr. Halloran's property. Lately with this, it has gotten noisy and there has been more traffic, but it's not been totally unreasonable, and I agree with the inspector here that they should be given a reasonable amount of time to get this dirt off the property. We don't have a problem with that.
Thank you very much. Next? Any other abutters? Go ahead.
Nick Faust at 9 Colonial Drive. Fully agree with everything that was just said. I think that's a reasonable timeframe. The reduced hours are more than reasonable, and certainly support Mr. Howard's continued firewood operation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dmitry Detkov, 3 Richard Way.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Dmitry Detkov, D-M-I-T-R-I-Y, D-E-D-K-O-V.
Yeah.
I have a question. So our main concern was the smell, and I understand that the smell was coming from the composting and not from any of these earthing materials that we're talking about. And the smell is not going to return.
No, that was years ago. We haven't made compost in years. Yeah, that was 5 or 6
Other than that,
years
we
ago.
don't have anything.
Thank you very much. Just your address I missed.
3 Richard Way.
Thank you.
So you're worried about smell from before?
That was the composting, that was a problem a couple of years back. And then I have 2 letters that were written in. Eli, do you mind if you read one, because I'm losing it?
Who's bringing the from
I think it's down here it starts.
other towns? and how close to it. One of the problems is that.
Okay, this is a letter from John Syke.
It's gonna find water.
Hello, Ed. After speaking with you earlier today, please find the letter to the ZBA I mentioned. I would appreciate you presenting it to the appropriate person, meeting chair, as soon as possible. Please confirm receipt of this email, its appropriate distribution, as its intent is urgent. To ZBA chairperson, I'm writing in lieu of my appearance for the Halloran Lombardo Loam ZBA reading case number 22-958, scheduled for May 19th, 2022. I have mobility challenges that prevent me from attending. I am not in favor of allowing the appeal to overturn the Assistant Zoning Enforcement Officer's decision ordering them, Halloran Lombardo, to cease and desist the processing of earth materials on Catherine Halloran Goldring's property at 370 Harwood Ave in Littleton, Mass. That decision has made a vast improvement in the quality and peace of life in our neighborhood. From the Littleton GIS map, the 8.5-acre site owned by Catherine Goldring is zoned residential. In the past, it's mostly been used for agricultural and farming purposes. That has changed dramatically the past few years. Over the last 2 years in particular, the property has been transformed into a soil processing operation at a commercial industrial level. Load after load of unprocessed dirt is brought onto the property by Lombardo loam trucks and Acton mass business. This dirt is then moved by excavator into huge mountain-sized piles to be later processed. Once processed, sifted, the hauling again begins in earnest to remove it from the same property. It's an unendingly loud commercial operation that surely does not belong in its present location. The constant use of giant front-end loaders, the sifter, the excavators, and all the other equipment is continually felt shaking and vibrating inside our home. It's during the sifting part of Halloran's operation where the real problems arise. The noise, dust, and runoff created by this massive operation are incessant. When they start up the sifter sometimes as early as 7:30 a.m., it runs all day, not ending until after 5 p.m. almost every day of the week except when it's raining, and that noise destroys the quality of life on our property. In the summer when it's dry, the dirt drifts everywhere. It gets on everything. We find the need to clean our windowsills once or twice a week of dark silt. I'm asthmatic in finding that shutting the windows and doors is the only choice I have to prevent the onset of an attack. Why should we have to be prisoners in our own home? This is supposed to be a peaceful suburban residential neighborhood. There's also the problem associated with storm runoff. When it rains, rivers of dirt flow both towards Long Pond Brook and towards the Colonial Drive sewers, which ultimately end up in the marshy wetlands on both sides of Harwood Ave. It is therefore, in my opinion, not the place for such a large commercial operation. In addition to being a general nuisance, more importantly, it is destructive to the environment, the quality of life, and the health of myself, and I'm sure other abutters. If the ZBA truly cares about the quality of life for the neighboring residents, you will allow the existing cease and desist ruling to stand. Please do not allow our neighborhood to regress back to the way it was prior to the Assistant Zoning Enforcement Officer's decision. Thank you, John and Amy Syek, 8 Colonial Drive.
And then, would you read this one from David Jowers, please?
David Jowers, 367 Harwood Ave, Littleton, Mass., written May 9th. Zoning Board, I am unable to make the meeting on May 19th, but as an abutter, I wanted to send you this letter in lieu of appearing in person. I support the petitioner's request to finish sorting the remaining dirt located on Halloran Farm. I've never had a problem with the petitioner working during business hours. I understand there are some issues with noise. However, I support the request to finish the sorting at Halloran Farm prior to removing the dirt, based on 3 reasons. Since spring has finally arrived, the noise will be somewhat abated as leaves on the tree return and muffle the sound. Environmentally, it's better to limit how many times the dirt is moved without being sifted and sorted. We are helping the environment by saving fuel that would be wasted on an extra step of moving the dirt. Economically, it's better for both the petitioner and end users to avoid extra steps in the logistics chain of this dirt being modified from fill to rocks and soil. As an abutter, I understand the intent of the zoning change that made sorting dirt into an industrial operation instead of an agricultural operation. As an abutter, I ask the zoning board of appeals to make environmental and economic choice to allow the petitioners to finish sorting the remaining site dirt at Halloran Farm.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Could you remove the soil as is without any additional sifting? And alternatively, if you did not remove it, what's the situation like on the property if it stayed there?
So we don't have a place to really bring all of it all at once. And for us to not screen it, it's really just, we're just like spinning our wheels at that point because we've already moved it there. The fuel prices the way they are, it's
Yeah,
really.
no, you don't make money, but it could be.
Brought it in under $3 a gallon, now it's over $6 a
Yeah,
gallon.
it's really
Do
gonna
it right, you know.
hurt our business. I mean, we're Littleton residents, we really weren't trying to hurt that neighborhood by any means, you know?
And the last question is, what if you did this remaining sifting in the fall when people tend to have their windows closed rather than in the summer? Does that make any sense?
I mean, right now is, it's usually spring and fall is obviously our busy times, but if we don't get going on it soon, then it might be sitting there longer than we'd hope.
Could I?
So if we could get it going.
Can I say, I think the point that's been missing is that this sifted soil is primarily used for agriculture, so it's sent to places so people can put it in the soil and grow things. So if you do it in the fall, you've kind of missed the whole season. I think that's the point that's missing.
Yes.
And I got
You didn't speak yet, and identify yourself.
My name is Gwen McLaurin, 517 Newtown Road. I understand that there have been complaints, and I understand that it's manual labor, and it's dirty, and it's all the other things. As a neighbor, and I live right at the point, right at the intersection of Newtown and Harwood, these guys have been wonderful neighbors. Richard has come and helped us during storms when we've had trees down. The Lombardo guys go by and they talk to the kids and they wave. I think that that's somehow missing from what's been said tonight. And I think that just to allow them to be able to finish what they started in a reasonable amount of time is not asking a lot.
Thank you.
I actually got some paperwork real quick if you just want to look at it. It was from
Give us a check.
when they had the screener fixed. I don't know.
Oh, what's being presented to me is the evidence that the screener has been addressed with excessive noise by a company called Simplicity Equipment. And he said the grease was coming from the shaker bearings, and after additional testing, they determined that the shaker bearings were failing and causing the noise. We advised the customer he needed to replace the components. The customer followed our recommendation is in the process of repairing. And there's a parts list here and a big invoice for it. And you're telling us that that was done.
Yeah, we just completed that.
Anyone else want to see it? And go ahead.
Have the decibels been checked since they had it repaired?
So, Neshoba's Associated Board of Health, our regional agent, Jim Gareffi, did go out and do a decibel test at the property line and found no violation at full operation.
Since it was repaired, okay.
After the repair?
Before.
Before the repair.
Huh.
Okay, I don't know, do we want to close the hearing and pull the board?
Is it way up high?
Oh, my God.
Do we have questions?
No. All question answered.
You want to close the hearing and then we'll,
Move we close the hearing.
okay, Rod moves to close and Eli second. Okay. You can sit down, rest.
Cheryl, I still think the most photogenic.
I what?
The most photogenic in your cover there.
I'm going to start. I have really mixed feelings about this. It's a very commercial operation where they're bringing dirt in. I looked at those mountains of dirt and I thought those could be trucked out in a week pretty easily. And it could stop being a nuisance to their neighbors, and have it done and over with. I really have mixed feelings about this. I mean, part of me says, okay, they're Littleton residents, this is their business. They'd like to have 3 months to do it so that they can do it on their timetable and sell the dirt as they go. And you know, I don't want to put anyone out of business. But on the other hand, I have really mixed feelings about this.
Okay. John Field.
I go with what I said before. I think that it's reasonable to allow the work to continue with controls of dust prevention and a fixed timetable.
Thank you. And I'm just going to ask you, the building inspector and the applicant have said 3 months with one extension only if absolutely necessary. Is that timetable all right with you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to know the volume, though.
I didn't hear anything about a time extension.
It's in both of the letters that we read. The applicant asked for 3 months with a 30-day extension if needed, and Mike Kenny answered he's in agreement with the 3 months with a 30-day extension, so that's all I'm asking. John Sewell?
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with John as far as, you know, restricting, allowing them to remove the material. Moving it twice just adds lots of cost for no real much benefit. Taking the, but restricting them to the shorter time period per day, no weekend work, dust control, and a restriction on any additional material being brought on site.
Yeah.
So that we just simply remove what we got. Speeding it up, whether they get it done in 2 months or 4 months, basically you make the same amount of noise. If you do it over 4 months, you make less noise over a longer period of time, quieter, versus doing it all real fast and having to make much more noise because you got more equipment moving.
I don't know, if I was in butter, I'd wonder if I wanted it over with fast.
Well, just
That's personal, though.
So I think that I would have an agreement with the concept of allowing them to complete it, to remove it off the site.
Eli?
I'm in agreement as well. I think it's a reasonable approach to remove it with the constraints that we've been talking about.
Rod?
I would prefer to see the material just trucked out, but I understand it's a financial burden to do that, and it's probably not fair on us to exert that burden. I also would tend to not want to grant the 30-day extension because I heard the comment that they should be able to get it out a lot quicker. So try to get it done as quickly as possible.
And Kitty?
My only comment is on the 30-day extension and what type of criteria is going to be used to determine that it's only if absolutely necessary, like is there some oversight to the removal so that we know that it's not going to be extended unless really super necessary?
That is a great question. So our concern from our point of view in our office, not just as the building official, but from conservation and Board of Health, is the protection of the wetlands and the runoff. If for some reason they're not able to complete within the 90 days that originally requested, they will come to us. We're going to do a site walk with them prior to if granted. We'll do a site walk, we'll evaluate what they have. After 90 days, we'll go out and evaluate what's left if they haven't completed it, because we want to make sure that the wetlands, the runoff is all protected and contained. They're going to have to regrade that site to farm quality condition, so the soils can be plowed. So if there's a rock pile or siftings that we don't want on site, we want to make sure we can identify and have those removed as well.
May I ask a follow-up question? Is there a way to either, as part of the order or anything, to have an interim visit to check the progress instead of waiting till the 90 days?
Sure, we can. Rich can attest. We stop in often.
Okay.
We're on every road every day of the week. So you know, anytime that Mr. Kenny, the local inspector, has any inspections in that area, he's most likely gonna put 370 Harwood on and do a site visit.
Would
So,
it,
good
would
point.
it be a burden for us to ask that it be checked, you know, in 30 days, and is 1/3 of it gone, kind of thing? I mean,
We're-
I'm worried that
we're happy to
if the
follow
market
conditions as
dries
well.
up for their dirt,
Mhm.
and they don't have a market for it at the moment, that it's just going to get extended, or, I'm worried it's going to be business-driven, rather than driven as, gee, you need to wrap this up and be done.
So would it make sense to say that they have 90 days to finish sifting all the material, and they have 90 days plus a 30-day extension to get it off the site?
I'd rather say they have 60 days to finish
Well, I understand, but
sifting
I'm
the
saying-
material and
but-
another 30 days to get it off
But the biggest thing
site.
that makes most of the noise, the dust issue, is the actual sifting operation. That's the noisy, really noisy machine. I do realize that the dump trucks and everything backing up, beeping all the time is a pain too. But perhaps if we had a way of, you know,
I
If
think
you're
we're,
inclined to modify the cease and desist, I think we put it back in the building enforcement department office
Yeah.
to monitor it and micromanage it.
and I don't think, I'm not sure that's necessary, because if they've sifted it, they're gonna remove it because they wanna sell it.
Yeah.
So I don't
just
think we have
it's-
to say they have to remove it, they'll do
Okay.
that as a matter of course.
Both the building inspector and the applicant have asked us for 90 days to remove. I think we leave it to them to enforce that and make sure it's happening in a timely fashion. And
Well, like Kitty, I have a problem with the automatic 30-day extension.
no,
so-
it's not going to be
I
automatic.
don't think it's automatic. I was just looking for what the criteria was to extend the 30 days. And, you know, Mr. Mullins, perfectly competent and capable of doing it. I just didn't know what the criteria was, what the bar is for that. And, you know, if he waits till 90, or the department waits till 90 days to go out and say, hey, are you done? And they're not, you know, I just, that was just a little bit too open for me. So I was just looking for a little more guidance as to, well, how does this work in practical terms? And at what point do they need to come back and ask for the additional 30 days? And that's at your discretion, I assume, to grant the 30 days?
That's what I would suggest we put in our decision.
But as John has indicated, if we restrict them to sifting for no more than 90 days, they can get all the stuff sifted if they don't have sellers or buyers at that time. The sifted material can sit there and be moved as they get sellers. The main thing is to stop the sifting. Or
That's
when
up
they
to you
get
and your
buyers, something
decision.
like that. That's why I'm kind of resistant to the 30 days.
Yeah, we would be looking for them to continue the movement. We wouldn't be comfortable with them holding out until it was sold. If it is processed, it should be moved. If there's a pile of processed, at the end of 90 days, should they have processed all of it, and it's still on site other than a few days to get the rest out,
Yeah.
we would expect Lombardo and Mr. Halloran to come to an agreement to spread it on site.
Yeah.
for
What I'm
agricultural
hearing
use.
two board members say is that they are inclined to give a 90-day extension for sifting and a 90 plus 30 at your discretion for removal. That's what I'm hearing them say.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
And do you think you can get all the sifting done in 90 days if you don't get a 30-day extension?
You know, that's honestly, the 90 days is probably more time than we need.
Okay.
But, you know, just in case we have, for some reason, it rains all summer.
Yeah.
But we would like to get it out of there as fast as possible.
Is there a way to make our decisions such that we empower our building inspector, should, you know, he show up 3 times in a row and nothing's happening, it's just sitting there, or it seems like they're not moving along, that he can react? Can we, are you automatically empowered to do that?
We
With
already
the
have that
90-day
authority.
extension, they have right up till the 90 days to be done, right?
We have the authority. We can also, when we do a site visit before they start the process again, we can do an aggregate estimation of what's there and stop in and check to see what's been done.
So if
Well,
we make it.
Johnfield asked for volumes, and it might be nice to have a report to you of the volumes that are on site and being removed, so that you can see some real progress.
Can we make our decision contingent upon the building inspector's satisfaction with progress?
I would find that cumbersome to enforce. I think we can do it without that written in the decision. We can go up to the 90 days. We will make sure that they're in process, and they're as anxious to get moving and get it out of there as we are to see it gone.
It's almost as if we are not micromanaging the building inspector's job. What we are saying is, we're going to grant these people 90 days to cease and desist, and at the building enforcement officer's discretion, an additional 30 if necessary. And after that, the cease and desist stands. And so it really is entirely in his hands to make sure that they're not overburdening the neighbors, making too much noise, letting the bearings go south again. That's up to him. We're not taking his job away. We're simply saying we are putting a little delay on enforcing the cease and desist order that he's issued. We're not appealing it or overturning it or anything. Is that how you read this?
Yes, absolutely.
Except that we've only talked about the soil and the earth, commercial earth, what are we going to call it? Processing operation. And that's what the board's going to decide on that part of it. On the firewood operation, I would like to suggest that the board consider overturning the cease and desist order completely. And it will have to come back at the applicant's discretion whether he wants to continue as a grandfathered use or revert to agriculture use or go to the permit granting authorities for firewood. I don't think that's within our purview. I think we need to say you were wrong to issue that part of the order. That's what I think. Anybody else on that?
Did he say he was wrong to issue that part of the order?
He did.
He did.
But we have to.
But it's in the decision, so I guess.
So, okay.
It's in the enforcement letter.
Yeah.
All right.
So I will now take a motion. And it's going to be from one of the voting members.
Okay, I could try because I want to get a certain part in there.
Go ahead.
The board agrees with the building commissioner that soil processing is not an allowed use. However,
Earth removal, I mean earth.
earth processing is not an allowed use in that zone. However, we'll grant the applicant, the petitioner, is that the right person, or defendant, the right to sift between the hours of 9 and
Yeah.
3, Monday through Friday, but all sifting operation must cease by August 31st.
1 second, you're going too fast for me. So I'm going to stop you there, but grant a 90-day extension of enforcement
Okay, on the sifting operation.
of the sifting, of the earth removal operation.
Okay, you can say the earth removal.
No
Of the
removal,
earth
don't use the
processing.
word removal.
Of earth processing, of earth processing.
Okay.
On the following conditions.
Okay.
Make it nice and simple, the
Okay,
following
that sounds good.
conditions.
See, that you're better at this than I am.
More practice,
He's better
go.
than this at all
The
of us.
conditions, that all sifting operations must be terminated by August 31st, and removal of materials can extend to September 30th.
I would not give him the
And
grant
no-
automatic,
and no-
that's an automatic extension. Why would you, don't give him the automatic extension.
I'm
Well,
not as
at the
concerned
building
about them moving it.
inspectors.
I think that,
We can
well,
say
you
at,
still got the trucks coming and going, is
Yeah.
the problem. So- And they've only asked for 90 days. They said they could get it in 90 days.
like I said, my feeling was to not go with the 30 days at all, but everybody seemed to be in favor of it. so-
Let's say removal of the materials by 8/31, but the building enforcement officer can, at his discretion, extend the
Up to.
time for removal up to 30 days.
Okay, remove up to 30 days, not sifting.
And somewhere in there, we have to comment about no additional material to be brought on site.
Got one.
Yeah,
Keeps
that's,
going.
and no new material can be brought on
Can't,
site. to
can't
monitor
talk
the process.
faster than I write, guys.
We can, but we shouldn't.
And then hours of operation, 9 to 3.
Yeah, I said that. That's one of the conditions.
I didn't
Monday
write
through
it yet.
Friday.
Hours 9 to 3, Monday through Friday.
Oh, yeah, and dust mitigation methods.
Dust
mitigation.
mitigation. And you want, sorry, no new material on site.
And you probably should put something about no holiday hours. Not sure when 4th of July falls this year, and Memorial Day, but Memorial Day is Monday, right?
Right.
think you should indicate that this motion is a team effort.
Yeah, and then, and then, no, you started it, you get the credit. And then,
Monday through Friday without
wanted-
holidays is what John would like.
we wanted, I put it in, we're gonna do, volume, building inspector to, building commissioner to, assess volumes.
I think it's
Or
more
that's up to him.
curiosity than a
That's up to
It's more of a
him.
curiosity thing than a need, I mean,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
And what about noise? That's just a bylaw that you can enforce, so I don't have to put that in
And
this.
they've already tested it, the machine on the noisy, before it got fixed was.
Our noise
was not
decibel
noisy
things are
enough.
really high.
I know they are.
Maybe,
And
maybe
then add to that
we should
motion
ask.
as to the
No, it's an OSHA
firewood
thing. You can't do
portion.
anything about it.
Oh, I thought that was gonna be a separate one.
Oh, I thought we could.
Put it on
some-
one, as to the firewood,
Portion,
cease and
we consider-
desist.
We override the building inspector.
Overturn the building
And consider it a grandfathered use.
A grandfathered accessory use.
No, it's not.
No, just a grandfather juice.
Whatever works.
Doing it for 30 years, that's a use.
But it is an accessory use.
No,
No.
no.
Right now, it's more or
As
less
an
their primary,
agricultural
one of their primary
61A.
uses.
Not a 61A at the moment.
You're good.
Okay,
Ooh, just got quiet. Spooky.
everybody got the motion, or do you want me to paraphrase it and repeat it?
No, I think we got it.
Okay, second to it?
I'll second it.
Too late. Gotta speak up loud. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Are we with
Roll call,
poll?
please, for the transcriber, yeah.
Rod Stewart, aye.
Eli Constantino, aye.
Cheryl Callie Hollinger, aye. My apologies.
John Sewell, aye.
Thank you, board members, that was well thought out.
Madam Chair, you didn't vote.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Cheryl Gould, aye. I'm still writing.
That's gonna be secret.
Yeah, the reason I started is I wanted to make clear that we agreed that it is not an acceptable use.
I think you worded it well. All right, I think that we've run through our agenda, and we're probably at a point where I'll take a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn or close the meeting.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
There you go.
Aye.
All those in favor?
So the polling's gonna be irregular where we announce our name.